Brewing beer is very simple. Apart from a brew bin, you just need your beer kit and something to keep your brew bin and equipment sanitised. The beer kit I'm using today is a 2-can kit. Both these cans contain all the fermentables that we require to make this beer. No additional sugar needs to be added during the brew. Our first step is to get our kettle, boil it up, pour this into a saucepan or similar container, and plonk the 2 cans in it for a few minutes so the heat will soften the contents and make them easier to pour. So whilst we're waiting for that all to soften up, have a look at the other goodies that come in your beer kit. This kit comes with a few items, all importantly some instructions. Very straightforward instructions like I'm following today, but also are some other variations that you can follow to vary the end result of your beer. In this little pack here we have the all-important ale yeast. There we go, nice shiny package. Hold it up to the camera, smile, thank you. And we've got these 2 little tea bag thingamajiggies. Those contain some grains and hops, just add a bit more flavour to the beer, flavour which may have been lost during the concentration of the wort down to their thick syrupy goo contained in those cans. Righto, so let's deal with the yeast. So some tepid water, not too hot, not too cold, don't want to kill the little blighters. So in this sachet here we've got the yeast, open it up and plonk it in your water, and then we can set that to rest for the yeast to hydrate whilst we get on with the rest of the beer. Now the contents of the cans have softened up nicely to make them pourable. We can open both cans and pour the contents into the brew bin. Although pourable, the contents of the cans is still very viscous, so quite a lot will still remain clinging to the side of the can. Not to worry, which brings us to our next step. Next step is to take the flavour pack, that little tea bag thing, and pop them both in one of the tins, and then we shall fill the tins with boiling water, and that will extract lots of the lovely flavours from the bags, and also the hot water will dissolve the remnants of the concentrate clinging to the side of the cans. So we leave these for 15 minutes to infuse, and after that we can take the tea bags out and empty the cans into the brew bin. For the bright sparks among you, myself not included here, you'll have worked out that a metal tin containing boiling water, which hasn't cooled considerably in 15 minutes, is going to be rather unpleasant to handle. So after burning my hands here, the thought has finally struck me to go and fetch the oven gloves, which is going to make pouring the second can far more comfortable. Now that we've extracted all the sugars and flavour from our beer kit, the next step is to make it up to the final volume with water. What we do want though is the perfect temperature for the yeast to work, so we'll use a mixture of cold water and boiling water, using a thermometer to constantly check the temperature. So you're going to want your final diluted wort to be around about 20 degrees, 24 thereabouts. So that little glass of yeast and water that we set aside earlier, it's all nicely hydrated, can get poured into our brew bin. The next step before we leave it to ferment is to aerate this wort. So you get a big spoon and rouse and stir quite energetically to get plenty of oxygen into the wort, and that will help give the yeast a nice kick start. I'm sure you recall that at the start of this video I showed a product called Brew Clean. You could use any appropriate sanitizing product. That was used to sanitize everything which came in contact with the beer, the brew bin, saucepan and spoon, to make sure no little nasty microbes will upset our brew. The only microorganism we want in there is the yeast that set to work and make our beer. All that's left to do now is wait. And after a week or so, when all activity is abated, we're ready for our beer to be siphoned off into bottles or a keg. We can check that the beer is ready to bottle or keg by using a hydrometer to measure the specific gravity of the beer. This is a measure of density and therefore an indication of the level of sugar in the fermenting beer. As the fermentation progresses, the sugar concentration is less, so the specific gravity reduces. The depth at which the hydrometer floats is dependent on the density of the liquid. So on the scale on the side of the hydrometer, we check the level of the liquid where it's floating and read off, and that's our specific gravity. Now that the fermentation is over, we're ready to transfer the beer to bottles or a barrel. It's at this point that we can add some life into the beer by adding some priming sugar. This small amount of sugar is fermented in your bottle or barrel and will add fizz or condition to your beer. And as a rough guide, you're going to be adding about 5 grams of sugar for every litre of beer. Once your keg or bottle is sealed up, then transfer it to a warm place for about a week, and then to a cooler place for a couple of weeks, or ideally 4 weeks, to fully condition and mature before you can sample your beer.